Goo goo gaga. Please like and subscribe.
What do parents do that annoys you the most? There are a lot of things a lot of parents do that annoy me. Trying to use everyone as a babysitter, especially family or grandparents because they don't have to pay them. Baby showers and gender reveal parties. We get it, you're pregnant, how many parties are you going to throw? Unsolicited baby pictures. I didn't know it was a thing until I received one. Considering children as an accomplishment, I mean, everyone can do it, right? Bringing children everywhere they go and expecting everyone will be okay with it. Letting their kids be annoying to others because kids will be kids. And so on.
I want my cheesy puffs.
Those who shall not be named, that are obsessed with having a specific gender, and end up with a shiz ton of unwanted babies of the other gender. People that have a shiz ton of kids just to have one specific gender are just terrible. Well, that's my family. My parents tried 6 times for a boy until they got one. We're 5 girls and 1 boy. I love my siblings and very thankful my dad is capable of taking care of us financially and all. But what's the freaking obsession with having that one specific gender? I know a girl that was younger than me in high school who has 4 or 5 kids and honestly I lost count, just to have a boy. She's only 23 years old. I know of a family friend who tried for a boy for years, and got the help of in vitro fertilization, and had triplets. 1 girl and 2 boys. Now their family has 6 girls and 2 boys. I could honestly go on and on with examples of people obsessed with having boys, and end up with a shiz ton of unwanted girls. And for what? What do they get out of it? This is just a rant that bothered me so much because it came up in a conversation with my cousin who is trying, yet again, for a boy when she said many times that her financial situation is shiz. She has 5 under 5. Those who shall not be named. Edit. I'm also talking about parents who have a lot of boys and want a girl. It goes both ways. It just happens in my examples that it's always families that only want boys, because a lot of cultures prefer boys over girls.
I want pony. It's my pony.
My high school friend wants kids by age 23 with almost no savings, and to never work again in her life. Hi guys. I absolutely love this subreddit. I feel very understood when I read all your stories and am very glad for this community. I got my own story to share. I recently talked to an old high school friend. She's 21 right now like me. For some reason the topic of birth control came up. She told me that her IUD will expire in 2 years. Normally I asked if she's going to replace it or if she will switch to another method. Her response was, oh, neither because I wanna start having kids then. To be honest, I didn't know how to react, so the first thing I did was ask if she has any savings. Her answer was, while laughing, no, not really. Around 3,000. Of course I was even more shook, and straight up asked how she thinks this is gonna work out. Now comes the worst part. She wants to completely rely on her boyfriend, who is 26 years old, to work full-time so she can be a stay-at-home mom. She also never wants to work again in her whole life. So she's gonna be 23, won't have any money on her own, and plans to be dependent on her boyfriend for the rest of her life basically. She obviously isn't aware of how hard this plan could backfire, and I'm at loss of words how you can think this is a good idea. And most important, why would you want to throw away your life like that and be dependent on another person on this level? I mean, there's nothing I can do about this because she seems very sure of all this. But I can't help myself and think about this story a lot.
Hoo hoo hee hee.
I got told by one of my aunts. As a woman it's my job to get a man and have babies. I'm a 23-year-old bisexual woman, and I haven't told anyone I know in my life out of fear of how they would react, and I am single and child-free. This happened after my grandma died back in 2020, and one of my aunts came for a 2-month visit despite COVID-19 going on. My aunt took my mom and I shopping for food. On the drive we were having a conversation about what is going on in the world. My aunt then asked my mom, who lives in that house. My mom responded with, a lesbian couple live in that house together. My aunt then said, that is unnatural and against nature, and she continued to rant. I spoke up saying there's nothing wrong with gay and lesbian couples since her words did anger me. My aunt fired back with, God created man and woman for a reason, as a woman it's your job to get a man and have babies. I was so tempted to lie and say I'm a lesbian and how I'm never having kids, to see her reaction. Or tell her that I'm bisexual, however she began talking about something else, and I just kept my mouth shut since I have seen people like that get violent towards anyone who is LBGE. At least back when I told my mom and grandma I'm never having kids they got no problem with it, and to this day my mom doesn't try to force to find a man to give her grandkids since she knows she's never going to be a grandmother. I really wish people would treat child-free people with respect and not bully them for their choice that isn't hurting anyone. Like adoption is a thing if you want kids and not everyone can have kids. Also there are people who shouldn't be parents in the first place for so many reasons.
Goo goo gaga.
I wish it was more acceptable to not have to fake excitement when people announce they're pregnant. My 20-year-old cousin found out her deployed husband cheated on her days after leaving. He came home and coincidentally, after a few months she announces a pregnancy, with a due date that puts conception date right as he came home. This was obviously a save the marriage baby, and will definitely be used as a pawn to keep them together. My mom admitted she blew a bunch of money on the baby and won't stop spamming my phone with pictures of it. Knowing good and well I'm child-free. Similarly, a family friend is on their third child with the third father at 24, doesn't have a job, and always complains about money and behavioral issues with the first child. But of course I'm supposed to be so excited for the new little blessing. I wish I wasn't viewed as bitter Betty for having more sense than just popping out kids just for the sake of it. Honestly at this point, pregnancy announcements are triggering for me because it always brings out the, so when are you having kids? I'm not, and we shouldn't celebrate children born into bad situations just to save face.
I want my cheesy puffs. If you can't stand your kids, why are you having more? I have more than a few friends who have chosen the parenthood route who do nothing but complain about how hard parenting is, and how their children don't appreciate them, and how they want nothing more than time away from their kids, but then turn around and have another kid. It effing boggles my mind. I have one friend in particular who has 4 kids, they just had the 4th baby last year, and does nothing but complain about how motherhood is a thankless job and they're struggling and overwhelmed with the children they already have because nobody helps them. Then I see they've posted that they want to have another baby this year. Why? Effing why? Why are you effing doing this to yourself? You clearly can't stand the 4 kids you already have. Why are you volunteering for more? And this is why, whenever I see them posting about how overwhelmed they are, I roll my eyes and keep scrolling. They know full well at this point what they're getting into and they're actively choosing it for some nonsensical effing reason. Zero sympathy. I want pony. Well, I guess you're not getting married then. So I recently broke the news to my mom that I don't plan on having children. I didn't really expect her to care because she's not the most maternal person, but I had the feeling I was going to get an eye roll and some patronizing, "You'll change your mind" comment. Instead I got an argument I didn't plan for, which was, "Well, I guess you're not getting married then." This kind of threw me for a loop because why the F wouldn't I get married? It hadn't occurred to me that people see marriage as something you do solely for raising children. I personally thought the idea of committing yourself to someone in that way was about that love you had for your partner. Not that you have to get married to express that love, different strokes for different folks. Have you guys encountered this argument before? If so, what do you say? In the moment I couldn't think of anything besides tax benefits, but of course that was met with, "That's a terrible reason to get married." Though if we're going to take love out as a legitimate reason to get married and you want to boil it down to practicalities, for example, getting married because it makes the logistics of child raising easier, I would argue that taxes is just as legitimate a reason to get married as having kids. But come on. The marriage ceremony isn't centered around having kids, barring very religious ceremonies I guess. It's about your love for that other human and why you want to spend your life with them. Goo goo gaga.
They wrecked our house. Every year we have the in-laws over for a meal at our house. They all get together once a week for dinner and his mom slaves away to cook for all 15 of them, 9 are kids, so the adults get 1 day off each week from cooking. Fast forward to our turn. We spent the entire day cooking. We made them a traditional Persian meal from my culture. None of them had ever had Persian food or anything like it before. I was so excited to share in something special with them. When the food was ready, I did a little intro about Persian food and shared what they'd be eating. The kids talked over me the whole time, offering lots of yucks, while the parents obnoxiously just looked at them and shushed them, which was just as loud and obnoxious. We set them up at the table and they really range in age. Regardless, the parents never get a bite of warm food because they have to cut everything up for the kids and then beg them to eat some of it. These kids trashed the table with food. The floor was covered, and after all that work to plate and cut up their food to the right safe size, they left the table after about 3 minutes and ate none of it. The kids played crazily while the adults got their turn to eat. We talked about future trips and things we wanted to do, and they shared how they couldn't afford it, could never leave them behind, but could also never take them. Then we had a bonfire, and basically after just nicely getting it going we had to pour water on it and put it out. The little kids were obsessed and could not contain themselves around the fire. Then it was time for dessert. We have dogs, so we have lots of dog toys and bones and things around. I brought out the most immaculate Persian dessert, and while I'm explaining it, one of the kids takes a dog bone and, I kid you not, shoves it in the dessert and just looks up at me smiling. We just started getting some drinks flowing and were having some adult fun, and then by 8 p.m. the tears started flowing. These kids were one by one missing their bedtime. All the adult conversations were beginning to be overshadowed by tears, and the whole fam left by 8:30. Reminiscing with us as they left about how they used to be fun. Once they left, we walked back into the house only to notice about every piece of decor was broken. The windows were all sticky and slimy. The floor was sticky in 10 spots. Everything was trashed. Days later we still talk about how much was ruined in the short 3 hours they were here. Too long, didn't read, kids wrecked our dinner and made a mess.
Goo goo gaga.
I'm not sure if this belongs here. Going bonkers with wedding guests reaching out to ask if we, bride, groom, will provide babysitting for a child-free wedding. I think this is crazy, but people seem to be split on this. We are having a small wedding celebration after our elopement. I cannot believe the amount of guests that have reached out to ask if babysitting is provided for their children at a child-free wedding. I know it's trendy to provide it nowadays, but I personally don't think it's the bride and groom's job to provide childcare for someone's kids. It's a parent's job to parent and figure out if they would like to attend and figure out a babysitter or just not attend. Asking a couple to shell out an extra $15 per hour, at least, for a babysitter for multiple hours is nuts. When they go to a work holiday party, do they ask their boss to provide a babysitter? No. Why is it appropriate for weddings?
Goo goo gaga. Nosy old neighbor. First time posting here. I moved to my neighborhood in February. Due to my busy work schedule, and honestly a lack of interest, I haven't met the neighbors yet, though I see an elderly couple in the house to my left. Earlier today, I was relaxing in my backyard when I heard someone say hello. I looked up and saw the old lady I talked about seeing from my house. We exchanged pleasantries and she introduced herself and asked about what I do, where I'm from. And then asked if I was married and I said not yet. She went on and on about why an over 30 surgeon was still unmarried and child-free and why I moved into such a large house in a family area, and for me to go get some girl pregnant fast to avoid regrets yada yada. I was shocked. I just waved her off and as I was walking back to my patio chair, she said since I was an orthopedic surgeon, if she could come for a consultation for her back pain. I simply replied, no, I don't give consult to bullies. Too long didn't read. My nosy neighbor berated me for being an over 30 child-free person in a large house in a family neighborhood. Hoo hee hee.
I hate how people like to tell me that my issues can be solved if I have kids. I've always had bad period cramps, like many other women in this world, and my mother would always tell me, oh, don't worry about your pain, after you give birth, you won't have any more cramps, nope. Or if I am going through a rough time, my family likes to say, oh, don't worry, when you have kids, you will have fun and get to watch your babies grow. You will understand the meaning of life then. I can provide so many other crazy examples of how giving birth or having children will answer my problems in life, according to delusional people.
I want to viciously backhand people when they tell me that I'll never know true love or not be a complete woman or, like how your family said, not know the meaning of life if I don't have kids. Nope. A lot of people told me this about my migraine. I think it would get worse. Looking at my friends and relatives who have children, I can actually safely say that having children brings even more problems. So becoming a parent, something I have zero interest in doing, will magically solve my problems? I think the F not. Ah yes, when my mom said having a child will rebalance my womb and get rid of my endometriosis.
Endometriosis is an often painful disorder in which tissue similar to the tissue that normally lines the inside of your uterus. The endometrium grows outside your uterus.
I love her to death, but come on. Having kids will resolve zero problems. None. Zip. Zilch. I can promise that. I have kids, 4 of them, and I love them all to pieces, but solving problems? Not gonna happen. Whoever has told you that is an idiot. Quote, don't worry, when you have kids, you will have fun and get to watch your babies grow. You will understand the meaning of life then. End quote. No, I won't be having fun. I'll turn into an anxious mess and be constantly hovering over my kid to make sure they don't hurt themselves. This is one of the reasons why I don't want kids. My own child will make my anxiety skyrocket to Saturn. My former therapist told me parenthood will diminish mental health symptoms. He only gave parenthood as an example of living a selfless and generous lifestyle. Ex-therapist also said one of the most underrated things about having children is that you get to buy cool stuff for them. I roll my eyes. When people, especially medical people, suggest kids as a remedy for something, I'm always reminded of that House episode where he suggests the patient take up smoking. Because they're about on par with each other, as far as stupid suggestions go. A positive way to spin this, people who you should not listen to, are loudly and clearly revealing themselves to you. Sometimes it takes years to figure out who are bad influences in life, and here they are, with a bright neon. A kid will fix that sign to tell you that they are idiots who should be avoided. You almost want to thank them for saving you the time of relying on them for advice. People who say pregnancy will fix your problems, who should I give the baby to after? Will they take it? Giving birth or having children will answer my problems in life, according to delusional people. Yeah. That's like robbing a bank to pay parking tickets. Bad idea. I remember a few years ago I was out of work. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do and I didn't really have any passion for anything. Someone else who was on the unemployment scheme with me suggested that maybe if I have children and settle down, I will find a passion in my life. Really? Are those children going to pop out of my vagina and give me life counseling before ruining the rest of my life? My mom can tell you that bad cramps do not go away if you have a baby. They might not be there during the growth of the belly, but as soon as the baby is out, they will return.
So, what they actually mean is, you'll solve your problems with some more problems?
Kids will only be adding more problems to your existing ones. They'll just multiply and magnify everything. So if you're stressed now, you'll be even more stressed with kids. Don't listen to their lies. It's a stressful and exhausting full-time job. A friend of ours used to have the most terrible, debilitating cramps. Like, migraine level, light bothered her, she needed to stay in bed all day. On a suggestion from a brewer friend, we recommended she had either a stout or a porter beer on a day of her period if the friend claimed it helped immensely. The lady had some bad cramping, if never awful, and it helped her. We just didn't know how relevant that was to extreme but too common situations like this. For my friend, it was like night and day. She wasn't much of a drinker but kept a couple of beers in the fridge. She settled on a cream stout IRC, and it went from 9 to 10 down to no more than a 3 pain level. 12 ounces at dinner on the worst days, and she was fine through to the next day. Since some thoughts into the history beer and ale brewing is that it may have been started by women for this situation, I like to think this: old wives' wisdom trumps anything your mother is asserting. Yay! You can trade your monthly pain for a minimum 18 years worth of responsibility that you didn't want. Sounds perfect.
The baby propaganda runs deeply.
Now, is it after you have kids you won't feel pain? Or after you have kids you'll be so worn out from taking care of them that you won't know if the pain is from the original issue? Or something to do with pregnancy? Or something caused by the pregnancy? Or you will be just too tired to care? Oh, you don't like period cramps? I know what'll make you feel better: 9 agonizing months of screwed up hormones and your entire muscle skeletal structure shifting around to make room for a wholeless human, who will literally suck the life from your body, who then forces their way out of a part of your body with millions of nerve endings, ripping flesh and probably cracking your pelvis in the process, after which you could end up with mere lifelong incontinence if you're lucky, or full-on postpartum psychosis if not. Doesn't that sound like a great deal in return for less painful periods? Also, I've seen growing babies. They're boring as F.
I want my cheesy puffs. I got bingoed by my grandmother. I and she were catching up on family stuff, school, college, life plans, etc., as we always do because we don't see each other very much at all. Maybe 1 to 2 times a year. I said, so after I get my degree, I'll just work as a forensic scientist until I retire. Maybe get married when I'm 25 or 39 or something like that. Granny said, what about kids? I said, oh, I don't plan on any of them. Granny said, you said you would get married, didn't you? I said, possibly. Granny said, well, what if your wife wants kids? I said, then she's not the right one for me. I'll have to break up with her? Granny said, but why? Why not just have kids? I said, because I don't want kids. Granny said, you should still have them for your wife. You have a duty? I said, it's an incompatibility. Also, what do you mean duty? I don't have a duty to have a kid. Granny said, well, your parents made you, so you have an obligation to them to make more. I said, no. That's not how it works. I pretty much shut down the conversation after that. It annoys me. I get that I am a man and should start a family to provide for, but what if the only person I want to provide for is myself? Either way, that's the person I'm prioritizing. Myself? I want pony.
Are you sure you're not pregnant? Today I felt nauseous at work. Of course someone says, are you sure you're not pregnant? Yes, Judy. I am sure. I have low iron, let me be miserable in peace. Why do people think this is a funny or a cute comment to make?
Hoo hoo hee hee.
Well, she's having another one. Just got the news that my cousin is pregnant again. She has a son, a toddler, whom I personally think is very funny and sweet as far as children go. I'm not really a kid person, which is why I'm in this sub to begin with, and I will never have kids. I never know how to react when someone tells me they're pregnant. I know that the proper, acceptable way to react is to be happy for them and act excited. But me? I'm not amused. The idea of pregnancy grosses me out if I'm being honest. I don't think of it as something to congratulate someone for. What is the big deal? I really don't get it. Why do people want to get pregnant? The holidays are going to be interesting, I can already tell you that much.
Goo goo gaga.
Sick of people fishing for compliments about their kids. I understand that people are proud of their children, and that's fine. But I am frustrated with friends and family that are just fishing for me, and others, to compliment their kids. Like, when I get to work in the morning, my coworker immediately whipping out their phone saying, "Look how cute my kid was this morning," and showing me the photo. I did not ask to see the picture, and they are setting me up with the response that they want, which is for me to tell them how cute the kid is. The problem is how often this happens, unprompted and without being asked, and imagine what would happen if I gave my honest opinion instead of just telling them these compliments they want to hear. It would literally shake their world, and it's not fair. No one wants to hear me say, "I don't care to see the picture," or "I don't think that's cute," or "Yep, looks like every other kid." And I don't say those things, because I try to rise above and play nice. But I hate how it's so forced all the time. Be proud of your own kids, admire how cute you think they are, that's great. Don't force or expect other people to, because many of us could care less. It's a tiny human, it didn't do anything spectacular that I'm interested in.
I don't know when people will understand that not everyone is interested in their kids. I just say, "That's a baby." Or, "Oh look. It's a humanoid." Something like that. They eventually get that I don't care. But it can take a while. I have said those same things. I've also said, "Yeah. Looks like offspring." I also have straight up told someone, "I know this may be rude, but I'm incredibly busy right now and I literally couldn't care less to see one more video of your child." She never showed or sent me another photo or video. Seriously, one of the most infuriating and uncomfortable things people do. There's no stopping some people. I took my dogs to the dog park to play. The dog park is unfortunately right next to a children's park. Every time I go there, every single time, there are parents with toddlers who bring them up to the fence and do anything and everything for the whole park to look at their irritating child versus the dogs. The desperation is unreal. Today's parent got irritated when she was ignored and stomped off. I don't know what reaction they want. No one wants your child to pet their dog, no one wants to coo over your toddler. Whenever parents do this, the entire park migrates to the opposite side to avoid the parents and shrieking children. I typically give the photo a brief glance, a small smile, and then look away without saying anything. It's not rude, but it's also not what they were hoping for, so it still communicates they won't be getting that kind of attention from me. Usually cuts down on it. I honestly just give non-answers when people do this, like a hum nice or something similar. Most of them stopped after they realized I was not going to be giving their children the compliments they were begging for. I'm not ashamed of being rude if it means people shut up about their kids.
Goo goo gaga.
Overheard at the nail salon. A mumby exasperatedly said, "I'm just waiting for my son and his wife to make babies." I know, not in the minority in this sub. And I've even read posts like this, if not verbatim, before. But good God. Hearing it out loud, in person, it was so incredibly repulsive, and made me feel so uncomfortable. I think I physically gagged. Everything about that statement seems wrong to me on so many levels. I don't really know why I'm posting. I just felt the need to share and connect with like-minded people on this. I'm not overreacting, right?
Many people are very self-centered. And they expect a lot from their kids. They want them to be a doctor, lawyer, etc. To take care of them when they get old. To not be gay. The list goes on. Ironic, isn't it?
It's never, I'm waiting for my son and his wife to get that dream house they've always wanted. Or, I'm waiting for my son and his wife to go on that backpacking trip they've been saving up for and planning. It's always, I want grandbabies.
All I can think when someone says something like this is holy shiz, get a life of your own.
I had only been with my boyfriend like 4 months before his mom started making, I'm waiting for someone to give me grandchildren comments. What's weirder is that I was only 23 at the time. My life had just started. Yet I was being rushed to fulfill someone's baby fever. I've been with my husband for over a decade and we started dating when we were 20. His mother got into a weird conversation with me about blood types. And then she told me, we already know what blood type the baby will have. Apparently my husband and I have the same blood type. I left the room to tell him to let his mother know I had no intention to have children. He followed me back to the living room and told her. She has been saying for years that as long as we're happy it's all that matters. But this week she told him that at least the Joneses have a kid. She's super toxic and is not part of our lives. But it was so strange that she expected me to have a child when she barely knew me. You're not overreacting. My dad still thinks that I'm gonna have kids, and it makes me mad.
Hopefully she'll be waiting a long, long time. Goo goo gaga.
Sweet jeans. I told my mom that I thought it was socially irresponsible for her friend's daughter to have 7 and more children that she can't possibly afford to help succeed in life. My mom responded defensively by telling me that I'm socially irresponsible for not having children because I'm not passing down our genetics. She said that it's my fault that smart women are not having kids and that the world will suffer when only stupid people do what shall not be named. She said this while she limped around the house in her pajamas, a neck brace with crutches, at 2 p.m. due to her hereditary autoimmune disease. The same one she passed on to me. The irony.
Please like and subscribe.